maybe?
The same.
The same.
Well,
All right, the stream is on.
welcome, guys. We came here today to talk about something that's very we should have talked about very long time ago, because there is a feature in Wasabi Wallet which is missing. So there is no such feature in Wasabi Wallet, and this is reading QR code address from the wallet itself. And almost all other Bitcoin wallets already have this feature, but Wasabi doesn't. And we tried, a number of people have tried to implement this in the past, but I suppose we have a bit higher standards than other wallets, because we really don't like to add packages and dependencies to our software, because they are security risks. And there were in the past multiple cases when dependency or a dependency of a dependency author has done something funky and people lost Bitcoins because of that. So we would really not like to add packages, but unfortunately we will have to do that if we would like to support reading QR codes. And I think that feature is a necessary feature for a Bitcoin wallet. So we will have to do that. And today's discussion is going to be about OpenCV and specific CSharp bindings for OpenCV, which is a video reader, a camera reader dependency or application for softwares. It's a library. Now my first question would be that, does anyone agree with the logic that we should have QR code reader in Wasabi Wallet, even though if it requires a security compromise, in the sense that we will have to add the dependency to be able to get the picture of the user's camera? Does anyone have any objection for that?
I don't have. It would be a useful feature.
Well, I don't know if I have one, but the only thing that probably worries me is that this will be the only library that we will not be able to have an eye on it, because in some way we always know what is in Bitcoin, right? Also in Avalonia, also in HWI, or in Bitcoin Core, not so, but Bitcoin Core doesn't have access to our code, right? It's like an external dependency. But in this case, it is different, and it's it will be the first time that we have this trusted library, right?
Sorry, guys, I missed the beginning, but which library are you guys planning to use for this?
We are talking about OpenCV.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, welcome, Don. So maybe it's worth clarifying what's the security risk here. What can go wrong? In my as far as I can see, what can go wrong is that if we update the library and the library have a malicious code in it, which swaps the QR code that the user is reading in, and so the money goes to the wrong place. Now, would it affect users? Can it affect users that does not use QR codes, or is it only for using QR codes?
The library can execute whatever, right? Because remember the CSharp, the .NET libraries have a module initializer that runs when you load the assembly, and it can have access to the global instance, and the global instance has the wallet service and so on. So and I think I think a library can do whatever it wants to do.
So it can execute code and it can do stuff. I'm not sure if it can access the global and wallet service and things like that, but maybe that's not the point here, right? Maybe they dump the memory and try to find a password, something like that. So yeah, we could also be very conscious about never updating this dependency unless we actually encounter a real issue in the wild. That could also be a strategy.
I have a suggestion that helps mitigate some of these security issues. You can have some code that uses the OpenCV library that runs in its own process, so it doesn't run in the same process as Wasabi, and only accesses the video. It doesn't do the QR decoding itself. We do the QR decoding, and it just streams over TCP/IP or something like to the main process.
Yeah, I think that doesn't really matter in the big scheme of things, because it's still executing code on the user's computer, and it can still dump the memory or show up fake windows or something like that. So it definitely mitigates the risks. But anyhow, the point is that reading QR code is an essential feature of a Bitcoin wallet. So we will have to have it. And we cannot have it in a non-dependency way. Although half of the job is done by Balazs and the others who will give you guys a presentation soon. Half of the job is done by them. So they decode QR code from a picture at least already. And that's, we were able to port an existing QR code reader, but accessing the camera is such a huge job, because there are many different computers, many different cameras coming with many different cameras. So accessing the camera is not easy. And And probably we will also have to update the dependency all the time because new cameras come out all the time. If we just think about our problems with hardware wallets, always breaking things, there are thousands, maybe tens of thousands of cameras out, and only 3 hardware wallets that we are supporting. So yeah, we Lucas, the only other option is that to not have QR code reading. Do you think that's okay?
The problem is that I don't know how people use Wasabi. For me, I have never need to scan a QR code in years. I mean, never. But it seems there are other people that needs to do that all the time. So probably yes, probably we need it, but I don't know exactly why. Because because QR codes makes a lot of sense for mobiles, right? Because you can scan a QR code that is in the screen, or make a face-to-face payment. But Wasabi is not for. I mean, if I have to pay someone, he will send me an address, and I will copy and paste it. I cannot imagine what kind of QR code I mean, what's the use case? I have a QR code in my mobile phone or something like that. Is it? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I believe that's a very common use case, that people have a mobile phone and have a mobile wallet there, and they want to send money to themselves because Wasabi is the big money manager and the mobile is like a pocket wallet. So they have to send money to the mobile, right?
Okay, I understand that. But sorry, but anyway, even in that case, it is a very particular use case, right? I know people sometimes request features, and I remember someone requesting QR scanning, but I don't remember a lot of people saying, "Hey, I want to scan my a QR code." But anyway, yes, it's a useful feature, but it could be a useful feature for many users, I think. Yeah.
Then, David, any other addition, or we can move on and think about the how instead of the why?
I think I would like to note that you say there are many different cameras, which is true. However, most of those cameras just implement a USB standard. So in that case, I think it may not be, we're not going to have to be, it's not like the hardware wallets where they all have different protocols. Most cameras in a laptop are USB, and it should be a single one, I would imagine.
Also, yes, I have a question that have you considered the native solution per operating system? Like that we have a different implementation and try to use the OS's, the operating system's native API to use the cameras, because most of the operating system has something
So at least 3 people tried to do this before in the last 3 years. So I assume people consider things, and everyone failed. That's why we are here right now, because we failed to do that in a way that we don't need to use external code. Maybe Yahia or Balázs, have you considered whatever the native solution means?
I guess the tryouts was that find a library which can handle all the platforms in one. And my proposal here, or the question here, is that if you consider finding a pair operating system specific library, for example, for Windows, you have the DirectShow. I just said something because it was before, maybe there are newer libraries, but for example, DirectShow can give you the web camera, and that's something that Microsoft is managing. So it wouldn't be a third party. That's only for Windows, of course.
Yahia, Balázs?
Well, for on my case, I already looked into DirectShow, but I couldn't really find a way to make it like a cross-platform. Like the first time when I tried using it, it worked pretty well, but it was a really basic case. I just made a new project. I implemented DirectShow. I checked it out. I was using 3 or 4 NuGet packages to make this work. So I'm not 100% sure how would that work on like OS X or Mac OS as well. That is something that needs to be tested, because DirectShow in its own words is really useful and not that hard to use, but I'm just not quite sure how will it work on other platforms? How hard will it be to implement it a way that it would run on every operating system as well?
The hardest is going to be
work
because
it's only for.
I was just thinking about use DirectShow for Windows and use something else for Linux and use something else for Mac.
Well, I mean, if you guys think that would be a solution, then I would totally agree with that, because DirectShow on Windows, I think it works really great. But wouldn't that brings up the question that means like we would have to depend on more things because we want to use different packages on different operating systems?
It depends. For example, DirectShow is a Microsoft development, and we are using Microsoft's libraries, so that's a highly trusted library. That's the advantage of it.
And what if, like, then we have to look forward to find other stuff for other operating systems. But what if there is no really a great, like, a middle way to find different packages on different platforms? Would it, like, let's say we can't really find a proper way to implement like an image processor on other operating systems. Would that be a great way to implement it just for Windows users via DirectShow? Or if that case would be right, if that would be the case, would we drop the idea at all?
I get it. Yes, that can be exactly one solution. So, for example, we have, I think, these options. The first is try to use EmguCV or something like that, a third-party library. That's one. The other is to use platform-specific libraries like DirectShow And in the case that you cannot make it work, for example, on Linux, then, and this is arguable, then we can say that there is no QR code reading for Linux, for example, or something like this. So I'm not saying that do this, I'm just saying that there are these options to consider.
In my opinion, you can even just go libUSB because the cameras, they are HID devices. So it's a really simple protocol. You can just go like libUSB that works on all three of them, and that should be workable. The other thing is if you go down, you can obviously go down the operating system route, and but OS X is going to be the difficult one because it's not like on the Windows and Linux world you can just call a thing like Avalonia. Obviously, in Avalonia we do this all the time, providing abstractions to talk to Windows, Linux, and Mac's APIs. And on Mac, you basically need an interop layer and code generation to make it work because Mac is like an alien world, you know. So OS X would be difficult if you go down that path. Not impossible because Avalonia has solved a lot of those problems, and you can actually take our code generation, and I can help you guys get set up with that if you go down that path. But I think you might want to investigate just going with like libUSB.
Anyway, I didn't want to distract that I know that you want to present something for us. So I would say let's just continue with that.
Well, I'm not sure we should, because you guys seem to be on the opinion that we should not use OpenCV, but rather keep hacking around because that might yield some result, because we only put like weeks, a couple of months of development into it, and because if you push harder, then maybe there will be something.
For me, I mean, if it's me doing this myself normally, you know, I'm not thinking about the security implementation. So then OpenCV would be fine for me, you know. But if the security implementations are too difficult, then those are the other options, I think.
Could you cut out the corresponding parts from OpenCV, or are we gonna use the whole?
Well, I think we would be able to do that somehow, but I'm not 100% sure how. I don't remember because we already had like there was a user, Big, who made like a pull request, which was not merged later, but I can't remember correctly. Did he use the whole, or did he cut out some important parts of it?
Yes, he said that it's not possible to cut out the parts because it's very, very complex with a lot of classes and inheritance and everything. It's a monster.
Yeah, and I agree with that, because when I tried the EmguCV, for example, which is the OpenCV wrapper that Big used as well, I was trying to cut out like the main library and trying to use it in some kind of example projects for myself, but I was not completely able to do that. There were some parts missing, and some of them I wasn't able to find them in the code itself. So maybe they are coming from some kind of other parts in the code which I was not able to find. So yeah, it's pretty big, and it would use time to maybe cut it out, the parts that we need. I mean, it might not be possible. I'm not saying it's possible. I'm saying that, yeah, as David said, it's big and complex.
Guys, can you hear me?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you know, OpenCV is a huge library with tons of contributors. It is a very serious project used by many other projects. I don't have a problem with OpenCV. I have a problem with the wrappers because the wrappers are projects that maintained by one guy, right? And that is the point that we probably should discuss about, because it's not, I mean, in the same way we trust on Microsoft or Windows or Linux, well, we can trust on OpenCV because there are a lot of eyes looking or watching those projects. But the wrappers, that is different. I mean, EmguCV, or I don't remember the other one. Those are the where something can happen.
As Adam mentioned, would it be safe to fork it and maintain our own instance from the point of time when we start to use it, or would we have still problems with the underlying dependencies? Because in that way we could say that, okay, this version is safe, we are using it for a lot of time, and that's what we are using in Wasabi as well. What do you think about that, Lucas?
I think to maintain, or I mean, we have no knowledge to maintain that a library like that. So probably the best we can do is, if one day we need to upgrade for some reason, we have to go to the project and check the pull request and do our best effort to make sure nothing smelly has happened there.
All right, that might be a good segue into the presentation of Yahia or Balázs, which is about EmguCV versus OpenCVSharp. Please, guys, what you prepared, present it now.
Well, basically, what I wanted to say is already been said. So we've been working on this for months now. We achieved basically the decoding itself. Now all we need for this project is some kind of image process library. And we found these two, EmguCV and OpenCVSharp, and both of these are wrappers, basically C# wrappers for OpenCV. And well, Yahia, would you, if your internet enables it, would you talk about these two?
Yes, thanks. As you already said, and maybe as all of you know, like both of these libraries are just wrappers to the OpenCV computer vision library. And like both of them are like, why we consider them, because they both give us access, like they give us cross-platform access to the camera to get the camera data. And like both of these, like one downside of these two libraries, as Lucas already mentioned before, that they are maintained, but they are basically maintained by one contributor. So I don't know if that's definitely not a good thing. We looked into the dependencies of these two libraries, and mainly they only have like .NET dependencies, nothing like external dependency as far as I know. And both of these projects have enough documentation if we ever consider using them. So they have good examples how to use these libraries. And yeah, one other point that was already mentioned that we already tried before to use EmguCV in our, like there was a PR to use that library. So we consider that as like a reference implementation for us if we ever choose EmguCV versus OpenCV Sharp. So yeah, basically this is what where we got so far.
So you are saying these wrapper libraries do not have more dependencies, except the Microsoft ones. So we do not need to go down that line and make the same discussions with the underlying dependencies libraries.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, yes, that's the case.
Okay, that's positive.
Which one seems more? Which one do you guys prefer more so far, based on what Yair said, Emgu or OpenCVSharp? So one thing maybe is that when I was looking at EmguCV's GitHub, then what I see is that the activity, the development activity, well, first of all, it looks like a proper C# project, so that's never a bad sign, unlike OpenCVSharp. But also the activity there is increasing while OpenCVSharp's activity seems to be decreasing. So for that, it makes me think maybe Emgu would be a better choice.
And for some reason, Big, the user you mentioned, actually he was a developer on trial period here, senior developer. Big was for some reason, they used EmguCV in his previous work when they doing some industrial image analyzer stuff. So that's another pro beneath EmguCV.
I have a quick question. Does the OpenCV library, does it solve the problem of how to get the actual camera image on the display inside Avalonia, or how does that bit work?
As far as we checked, it is able to process the camera image, and it can give back bitmaps, which is great, because what we just did with the help of Dan is to process these bitmaps with Avalonia, because Avalonia has its own bitmaps, and now it has new ways to do this. So with Avalonia, I think it can work together really great. It just needs to be tested in live, basically.
Yeah, because I assume that using a writable bitmap is a good way of getting a snapshot of the QR code and then processing it, but it could be resource intensive for actually displaying the live video. It may work, but it may not be the best option. So it might turn out that then you then need something like mplayer or libVLC to actually put the video inside the UI.
Maybe, or we can somehow make it more better in performance, but I don't know yet how to do that.
Probably you don't have to use the full resolution of the camera, in which case it's not going to be an issue. It depends on what you want to do.
Yep, basically, or maybe if you know, we are not making this to make like a full HD live stream, we just want to get pictures, so maybe we can somehow manage it to I don't know, progress the image every 1 second. Maybe, you know, every 1 second it will check for the QR code. This might be better performance, but I'm not 100% sure how we can achieve that. I think in the documentation we can find a solution for these performance issues as well.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a way to get it to work. Just maybe it might be one of the questions that you want to look into.
Okay, I will look into that one too.
All right, let me try to summarize the situation, this conversation. Well, first we started with thinking about, we established that QR code reading is indeed an essential feature of a Bitcoin wallet, so we will have to have it. We talked about our previous difficulties, basically why no one succeeded in implementing this previously, and we came to maybe we didn't came to consensus on that we should use an external library for it, because there was an idea by David that what if we would try to natively access the camera of every operating system somehow? So that might be something to research. I feel like it's unlikely, but anyhow, that we will look into that. On the other hand, we could use OpenCV, and OpenCV is a well-maintained project. EmguCV seems like the better option to OpenCVSharp versus EmguCV, but Lucas's problem with both EmguCV and OpenCVSharp is that they aren't maintained by a team of people, but only by one developer. I am not sure that's correct. By the way, I think EmguCV is maintained by OpenCV or something like that. Anyway, that's something to research if that's correct or not. And here we are. Go on, David.
Just a comment here that I checked it, and the user called EmguCV is making most of the commits there, which can be a person or multiple person. I don't know.
Yes. That's what I was referring to too, that might be the OpenCV team or not. We'll see. So, and finally, Dan brought up some problems that it might not even work together well with Avalonia, or there would be performance issues or something, even if we would just choose EmguCV, for example, then we could still have problems. I suppose that concludes today's call, and my question is, do you guys feel like we are confident enough to make a decision on what shall we on EmguCV, or we should still research the other possibilities. Maybe we would find something that we overlooked previously. What do you guys think? Should we go with EmguCV or back to research?
In my opinion, I think you should stick with an OpenCV solution.
Sorry, is that EmguCV?
I don't have an opinion on OpenCVSharp or EmguCV. I just think that you should stick with an OpenCV, either any OpenCV based solution. Not going down the route of exploring OS APIs or even lower.
All right. So, for example, the libUSB you mentioned, that you are saying that you wouldn't suggest to go down with that.
Yeah, I think if OpenCV had turned out not to be acceptable for security reasons, but I think that seems to be ruled out, then my next backup plan, I would say, is go to OS APIs. And then if that became some problem because, well, it's too difficult, then I would try something like libUSB. But I think OpenCV is, if we agree that that's fine, then that's the one I would stick with.
Okay. From my side, that I would like to see a pull request that is adding EmguCV and see the packages.log file, how it is increased, how many libraries were added there.
Sorry, what do you mean? Are you talking about sizes?
I just wondering that Yahya and Balázs said that down there, I mean, if you add EmguCV, there won't be any other libraries than Microsoft's libraries and EmguCV, and that's all. But they weren't sure about that, so it can be easily investigated in a way that you add EmguCV and check the packages.log file, because that will contain all of the dependencies and sub-dependencies listed there. And just check the diff, and we will see if there is an Easter egg there, like another third-party library or something.
I just pasted into the chat a link to the GitHub's dependency network, which lists all of the dependencies that it depends on.
Yes, in NuGet.org, you can see the dependencies too, the list of dependencies. Oh, sorry, one thing. I mean, the dependencies are only let's say .NET dependencies, right? That's what we are talking about. But remember, they also have the real OpenCV, because the OpenCV is a bunch of libraries, right? They are not managed libraries. They are just like native code or unsafe code or whatever. And these .NET libraries are precisely a wrapper around that. So I don't know the size in bytes, let's say, but also in the libraries, how many libraries are redistributed with these wrappers.
Maybe we can make
In
an
other,
agreement
in other words,
CV that if we decide OpenCV a safe library, or I don't know it, but as I checked the website and I see that many projects, as Ben said, they are using it. So I think it is safe.
How about
well, no, but my point is that it is it's more or less as what we do with Tor, let's say, right? We distribute Tor, but people have to trust on Wasabi Wallet in order to trust on that the redistributed Tor, because we could, for example, modify Tor, right? Compile a modified version of Tor and redistribute that modified version of Tor. So that's why I say that we have to forget about OpenCV. We shouldn't talk about OpenCV because we are not really trusting on OpenCV. What we have to worry about is about the wrappers, because the wrappers are the ones that redistribute the OpenCV and the ones that can do whatever, right? That's the weakest point in the chain is the wrapper.
can we use OpenCV? Can we write our own wrapper for OpenCV? Not like taking out the code from EmguCV, but I mean, take OpenCV and write a wrapper for that one single call or two single calls that we actually need from it, you know?
It's a good question. Honestly, I don't know the answer. I was playing with OpenCV many years ago with Python, and it is a complex library. But who knows? Probably we only need to wrap two calls, something like turn on camera, camera turn off, and take picture or something like that. I really don't know. It could be good to invest to make a small research probably.
All right, how about let's make a pull request with EmguCV just to make sure that it could actually work, because then still had issues with that it might not work or might not be performant or something like that. And after that, we think about if we could remove the EmguCV middleman from that, if the proof of concept, if it's already been proven to be work well together with Avalonia. How about that for a plan?
It is a good plan for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, then. I think that concludes our meeting today. Thanks for everyone for coming and have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.